Hi, and thank you for your question. First of all, you said that you're okay with finding the mass ratio for of iron to chlorine in iron 3 chloride. So I'm just going to write down that we're doing iron 3 chloride, and to find the mass ratio, whoop, there we go, of iron to chlorine. We found, or the ratio comes to 0.5244. Okay. So in the second part, it's saying that there is a sample of iron chloride, and sample B has a mass of 1.475 grams. Okay. And the question is, for sample B that has a mass of 1.475 grams, what is the mass of the chlorine in grams, and what is the mass of the iron in grams if we know that the mass ratio is 0.5244? So the second part of that question, they give you a formula to use to solve for the mass of chlorine. So part B of that example is first solving for the mass of chlorine, and then the last part will be using the mass of the chlorine to find out the mass of the iron, because once we have the mass of the chlorine, we can just subtract that from the total to get the mass of the iron. So just so you see where we're going with this, once you get the mass ratio, you can then use the total mass of the sample to find one of the masses, which in this case is going to be chlorine, and then once you have the chlorine mass and the total mass, you can just subtract the chlorine mass from that and you'll get the iron mass. So back to part B of the question, how did they set up that formula to figure out the mass of chlorine? I'm going to show you in a little bit different math language that makes a little bit more sense to me, and I hope that it also makes sense to you. So first of all, we are looking for the mass of chlorine. So we're going to use the variable x and some algebra to help us figure that out. So first I'm going to identify that x is going to be my mass of the chlorine, and I'm going to make up an equation that in English first, and then I'm going to translate to math. So if we know that the total amount of our sample B is equal to 1.475 grams, we know that that has to be the mass of our chlorine plus the mass of our iron. So when we add up the mass of our chlorine, which right now we don't know, and the mass of our iron, which we don't know, we will get the total amount, which is 1.475 grams. So I hope that you can see that that makes sense to you just with using English and a little bit of math. So add the mass of the chlorine with the mass of the iron and you get the total amount, which is 1.475 grams. Now I already said that we're going to designate the mass of the chlorine as x. So I'm going to take out the English translation of that and I'm going to translate it into math. So mass of chlorine becomes x, and then I'm going to add that to the mass of my iron. Now I'm going to do a little bit more translation from English to math. I have x as my thing. I probably should do it the same way that I wrote it. Sorry. There. X. I'm just going to bring that down. And then I'm going to add that to my mass of my iron. How can I translate this into math? Well, this is where my mass ratio comes in. My mass ratio of iron to chloride is 0.5244%, which means that, 0.5244, which means that iron's mass is going to be 52.44% of chlorine's mass. That's what that decimal means. If I multiply it by 100, whenever you multiply a decimal by 100, you can change it into a percent. So 52.44% of chlorine is going to equal the mass of my iron. That's what mass ratio represents. The percentage of chlorine that is iron. So when I write my mass of iron, I know it's going to be this percentage of chlorine. So I'm going to multiply my chlorine amount by 0.5244. Because we don't really multiply by percent, we have to change it into a decimal. And that's of X, which is always translated as the operation multiply. So my mass ratio is going to give me my iron mass when I multiply it by the mass of my chlorine. So that's what this is equal to, 0.5244 times X. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for X, and when I solve for X, that's going to give me my mass of my chlorine. So I'm looking for like terms, and I have X here and I also have X here. So the coefficient in front of X, right now I don't have anything, but we always assume this to be 1. So this is again reviewing algebra skills. When you don't have a coefficient in front of your variable, or a number in front of your variable, we assume it to be 1. Now we can go ahead and add the coefficients together. So 1 plus 0.5244 gives me 1.5244 X. So I can add up these like terms together, and I get 1.5244X is equal to 1.475 grams. Then to solve for X, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite of what's being done to it on that left-hand side. So what's happening is I'm multiplying X by 1.5244, and the opposite of multiplication to get rid of it is dividing, because when I divide 1.5244 X by 1.5244, that cancels it out because it's equal to 1. And whatever I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side. So X is going to be equal to 1.475 grams divided by 1.5244, and that's going to give me 0.9676 grams. So that is what my mass of chlorine is equal to. Then all I have to do is use that mass of chlorine and the total mass of my sample B to figure out my mass of my iron. So I'll take 1.475 minus 0.9676, and that's going to give me how many grams of iron that I have altogether. So I hope that this little algebra section and how I set up my equation helps you to understand part B of this question, and then I hope that the algebra that I did do makes sense. Please let me know if there are any other questions that stem from this, or if you would like me to break it down a little bit more, or maybe even a little bit more slowly. Thank you for your answer, or your question, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.